Supreme Court speaking?
That's the highest court in the land.
In the land.
Is it the apex court?
Yes.
After them is God.
Yes.
Incidentally, Oputa had told us that it does not translate that by virtue of their supremacy that they are what was the word he used? Infallible. Infallibility is one they attribute to the Pope. And that's only one circumstance when he's speaking ex cathedra.
Exactly.
That's right. If the Pope is not talking ex cathedra, he cannot ascribe infallibility to him.
Yeah.
The judgment is very clear, very straightforward. But the judgment, as far as I'm concerned, is questionable.
And let's look at the expectation of Nigerians.
I'm not looking at it
and then the ruling of the appeal court judge.
I'm not looking at it from the point of view of the expectation of Nigerians. Okay. I'm looking at it purely from the point of view of the law.
Okay.
You talked about the Court of Appeal also, the decision of the Court of Appeal.
Yeah.
What it is predicated upon.
The fact that he was falsely brought does not remove the role of the court from trying him.
I disagree, because we are dealing with issues relating to fundamental rights.
Okay.
Because we are dealing with situations. The Supreme Court went ahead to say that evidence that an evidence is obtained illegally does not invalidate its admissibility. What is the evidence?
Okay.
Maybe my learned friend will help. What's that evidence? And I totally disagree that if you're dealing with a human being that is ascribed dignity and the dignity of human life, you don't apply such principles relating to this and that. Nnamdi Kanu was tortured in Kenya. He almost died. And in the Court of Appeal, a lot of serious arguments were conversed by his lawyers, on the standards upon which these things are applied. Recall that it's an issue that falls under international law.
Okay.
And we cannot resign from our international obligations. No country has done that. As a matter of fact, in Abacha against Fawimi, the Supreme Court has said that the national legislature of Nigeria cannot resign from its international obligations because it never envisaged that those obligations can be refused by the domestic entity.
Does that exclude, would that push Nigerian court away from the reality of his trial with respect to terrorism?
The reality of his trial, if you look at what this Court of Appeal said,
yes,
which I think is very correct,
yes,
is anchored on the legitimacy of his being brought to court.
Okay.
That's an issue that the Federal High Court ought to have determined firstly before even going into the issue of trial. Because fundamental rights is above all other rights.
Okay.
The Honorable Justice Dikitobi stated that very, very clearly. I think it's Ifego against the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's above, if you put the hierarchy of laws, including the Constitution, if you remove Chapter 4, fundamental rights rise above it. It's superior to everything. So if somebody, I will not ascribe to a principle, even though of the Supreme Court, that says that the police can deal with me in whatever manner, break my legs, pluck out my eyes, and bring me to trial. That trial will be said to be valid. I disagree.
I'm sure he has his position on that.
No, the point is similar to his what he has said.
Yes.
If you look at the Kanu's case, this has been a sore point, in our jurisprudential, precedents that we have in Nigeria, because this matter has been rigmaroling in all the courts, up and down, just like that. And if I know that the Supreme Court, was not specifically, referring to Kanu's case. He was saying that because your rights were breached does not mean that your criminal, inputs or whatever you have, that you cannot be prosecuted. If, for instance, there are charges against you, you understand? That is elementary, and that we understand that. That even before now, that has been the procedure of court in terms of jurisprudence, criminal jurisprudence. Yes, we agree with that Supreme Court on that. The aspect of going to seek civil rights over their breaches and whatever the case may be, is that I was thinking that the Supreme Court, having recriminated the Court of Appeal and other courts, make impute into before this matter before they go to Supreme Court, should have go further and state that we have two judgments already, given in favor of Nnamdi Kanu, 2 billion each. You understand? I was thinking that the Supreme Court would have recriminated the federal government to say that yes, you can bring those charges against this man, but those two particular judgments he has already gotten on breach of his fundamental human right, and which we agree that his rights were breached, that the federal government should make things possible and pay him that compensation. The Supreme Court did not make such pronouncement. That is number one. The second one is this: if you look at the Nnamdi Kanu's case, is this: okay, let's assume that as the case may be now, my own dilemma now is that there are no charges against Nnamdi Kanu as it is now, or a particular court that this matter is going to come in, except maybe there's a contrary proof to that. Is Nnamdi Kanu not supposed to have been released that day? It's okay, you cannot hide under the cover of fundamental human right when you have criminal allegations against you. Now what will happen is that you go home, then whenever they want to prefer those charges against you, the fresh criminal charges, as the case may be, then they can pick you and you come and answer to